They make us sick, but they don't kill us. And then we are drugged for life. You look at what's happening in children, a child born in a hospital in the United States today, within an hours of coming from source into this, into this body, the first thing that happens to them is pharmaceutical intervention without really asking, there's barely informed consent about this. That child's eyes are smeared with erythromycin ointment and they're given a hepatitis B vaccine in their first day of life. And what are these two things for? I mean, I mentioned this because it's just emblematic of how we're put on the pharma treadmill from the moment we are born in this country for reasons that are very strange.
From the source. As soon as you're put in the body from the source, that one caught my ear right away. That goes on for quite a while. That is the new Surgeon General nominee, Dr. Casey Means, on Tucker Carlson of all the places. Then she appeared there with her brother Callie, who's apparently the dynamic duo of the Maha movement, which we'll get a lot into. But that was her on Tucker Carlson last fall, made quite a stir because of, oh my God. And the thing that you'll find about these folks is it all sounds so reasonable, right? Oh, well, we don't want chemicals in our food. We don't want, unnecessary medicine. But when you dig into it and you talk to real healthcare providers, you discover it's fucking crazy. So we got a lot of talk. It's been a crazy week. So I mean, and then of course, believe it or not, this hasn't got as well as you. Once again, it has caused another nominee of the Trump administration has caused a stir. Of course, Her Highness Laura Loomer, who I think is the real personnel chief for this White House, has problems with this. He, and of course, Nicole Shanahan, who was his RFK's running mate, has a problem with Casey Means. And believe it or not, they're not extreme enough. Apparently, I don't even know. I mean, it's so hard for me to keep track of what makes Laura Loomer mad. And for my own health and safety, I don't. It's probably just the best way to do it. But she's mad. But the funniest part of this whole story is obviously the thought that Donald Trump puts into it's the importance that he places on his job and the important people he's putting in these jobs. This is Donald Trump being asked on Thursday all about his new nominee and how much he really likes this new Surgeon General.
For state, he just announced a new nominee for the U.S. Surgeon General who never finished her residency and is not a practicing physician. So can you explain why you picked her to be America's top doctor?
Because Bobby thought she was fantastic. She's she's a brilliant woman who went through Stanford. And as I understand it, she basically wanted to be an academic as opposed to a surgeon. I think she graduated first in her class at Stanford. And Bobby really thought she was great. I don't know her. I listened to the recommendation of Bobby. I met her yesterday and once before. She's a very outstanding person, a great academic, actually. So I think she'll be great.
Ooh, the vetting process. I don't know her. Bobby loves her. Good enough. There's a lot of layers there. Okay. And we're going to talk about that because there are layers, what we just heard. One of those layers is the fact that she is not a practicing physician. She did not complete her residency. She never got licensed as a physician. Is a big thing, I think. On top of that, we find out that there's just layers to it. So we got a lot to talk about. As always, I have the perfect guest. I am Fred Wellman. This is On Democracy with FP Wellman, right here in a new time slot on the Midas Touch. We're so glad to see a little bit of early risers on Friday. Still here on Friday night, but you can see we're a little earlier. We're live at premiere. So I'm thrilled to be with you. As always, the Midas Minds that are here exclusively on Midas FP1 on Midas Touch. You know what? Let's just get on with the show. We got a lot to talk about. Oh, man. Welcome back. I am still Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy with FP Wellman. I was that 30 seconds ago. I think it's actually 15 seconds. I timed it recently. Man, another crazy week in Washington, another crazy week in the world. But this one's really interesting because this healthcare issue is getting bigger and bigger by the day. And a lot of the worries we had about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be the head of HHS has come in true. And so I'm thrilled to have a wonderful guest this week. Dr. Anahita Dua is the founder and head of Healthcare for Action. She is a vascular surgeon. She is a highly accomplished professional. If you try to Google all of her writings, like 1,900 books, something like that. Dr. Dua, welcome to On Democracy. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled. Not about the topic, but I am thrilled to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So for full disclosure, Dr. Drew is becoming my doctor on call. And we had her on the Sunday show, and now this came up this week. So we want to have this. So thanks for being a return guest, at least on the Andromoxy channel. Man, you saw those openings. That's some crazy stuff, right? I mean, it's very unique. She's going on, she's a healthcare influencer, right? She's not a practicing doctor. She's a healthcare influencer, isn't she?
That's exactly correct. I mean, this is just really unorthodox, frankly unacceptable. And I think you said it best when you said that, like, there's really been no thought here. I think anybody who took a second to think about this would recognize that this is a mistake all around. And the fact of the matter is that it's ironic that it's this administration that put this girl up for this position, because they're all about quote unquote merit. This is the least merit associated of nomination, I think. And there've been some really bad ones, but
Yeah,
again,
I mean,
maybe I'm
that's
biased.
saying a lot, sister. I'm not telling you.
I agree. I mean, I could be biased because I'm close to this industry, but I really, I mean, I was stunned. And it takes a lot at this point, because at this point, we need leadership. We must have leadership. And the thing about a surgeon general. So what is a surgeon general? What is it? Well, a
Right.
surgeon
What is it?
is a
Let's start there. What is the job? What does it entail? Right. I mean, let's go from there.
Yeah. So by definition, what the Surgeon General's job is to advise government, specifically HHS and the president, about how to improve health options and reduce disease and injury of the public. That's the job. So why do you need someone like that? Well, you need someone like that because they must understand what's going on in terms of diseases in the United States, so that they can come and say, hey, these are the priorities, government, that you should put the money behind. The other thing that the Surgeon General does is they are responsible for leading when there's a public health crisis, because they actually lead 6,000 commissioned people, corps. We call them a commissioned corps, which is the U.S. Public Health Service Corps, which is a group of health public officials that go out there when there are natural disasters or outbreaks or any sort of issue, and control it and help the public. They also do a lot of health advocacy. Like, if there's a particular issue that needs extra funding, they will go in front of Congress or Senate, talk about it and explain why, what is the science. And then, of course, because they are in such a coveted position and they're respected, the public listens to them in terms of like public health education campaigns. For example, we had Vivek Murthy, who did the whole gun violence campaign discussion. Of course, the tobacco disparities, and he did a focused one on like mental health and parental responsibilities, which is everyone. I mean, Republican, Democrat, everyone gets behind that. Those are all like very non-controversial things. And so we must have. It's not a oh, this is a little performative position. This is a real position that has real consequences if it's not led by a real doctor.
Right. And there's statutory requirements. I actually looked it up, and 42 USC 205 lays out that they're supposed to be a public, well, they're part of the public health service, which requires you to be a practicing physician.
Mhm.
First of all,
Oh, I-
and they're supposed to have, quote, vast experience, just specialized training or significant experience in public health.
Yeah.
Because that's the job. It's a public health job. She has neither, does she? I mean, unless I'm crazy.
No, she genuinely has neither. And I want to try to give the benefit of the doubt. You've heard me on your other show, I try to be balanced, but I am a truth teller. And the fact here is that Casey Means is not qualified for this position. And it is not a matter of I break with her on ideology. It's not that. It is quite literally that the only piece in terms of the merit that she meets is that she did graduate from an accredited medical school, but that is it. I'm a surgeon, so I know what surgical residency is all about. She did not complete surgical residency. And, Trump said it in that clip. Well, it doesn't matter because she decided to be an academic. Well, academia means that you're answering certain questions. Like, for example, again, what disease is important to focus on? You cannot know what that is unless you are involved intimately in health and you actually understand how to interpret data, how to do public health control. Like, for example, if there is an outbreak, let's say in the water somewhere in the middle of,
Right.
of Detroit, you have to be able to trace the source and you have to be able to get the right people involved so you can curtail it and then do damage control. It is a very important position. And if you've not had experience in that, you don't want to get the experience on the job. I mean, if something happened today, if we had like biological warfare, or if we had another health outbreak like we had a couple of years ago, this poor girl is going to be unable to manage it. And I don't think there's anybody, including, frankly, a significant number of Republican individuals that you've even brought up earlier, who would disagree with that. It's creating a rift even in the Republican Party, because even they are saying, "Whoa, what is this?" You know, because I mean, honestly, it's a little bit of an SNL skit, to be frank, because it is so off base in terms of qualifications.
Yeah, and that's the issue. This isn't it's not an advocacy job. I think they think it's so often. I feel like they think the only job is to go on TV and do things, but there is a professional necessity to these positions. It's not to be on Fox News all the time or to podcast talk about. She dropped out of her residency for mysterious reasons. Has now been a wellness influencer for years, talking about metabolic health mumbo jumbo. What the F are we talking about here? I mean, it's like she's always talking about metabolic health, and of course their company also sells these monitors, right? Don't they? It's like it's a racket, isn't it? But metabolic health is what she feels is a threat based on what I watched
Well, let
today,
me
right?
explain that, actually, because it's a good thing that you brought that up. So you're right. I mean, her whole shtick is about this quote, metabolic dysfunction. So if you go out to a restaurant today and you eat something that doesn't agree with you, you will have metabolic dysfunction. If you
I have that daily.
yeah, you must be eating my cooking. But basically, like my point is, so in the human body, okay, here, this is something a doctor will tell you. So there's something
Do it, Doc.
homeostasis. Yeah, let me get in the zone.
Here we go. I know.
Basically, there are a variety of things within your body that have to be balanced for you to function as a human being. You have to have the appropriate acid-base balance. You have to have the appropriate, metabolic rates. You have to have the appropriate temperature. And that's why you are alive and talking and not passed out on a gurney somewhere or dead. So when somebody has metabolic dysfunction, all that means is something's a little out of whack. And it can be extreme. So everybody who dies had metabolic dysfunction and then died. Every single person, okay? And anybody who's been a little bit sick with anything can have a slight bit of metabolism that's got an issue. Now, when we talk about metabolism in the influencer world, we talk about it in terms of things like weight gain, like your metabolism is not fast enough, so you're gaining weight. So it's all got to do with that balance. And so what she's saying is just a very kind of vapid Beverly Hills, flick my hair nonsense thing. And, people, I am a free speech absolutist. I am. And anyone can say whatever they want. But we all know that there are consequences of these statements. And what you don't want is an already relatively sick population. I told you on the last show as well. In the United States today, we have a situation where there are kids being born that are having lower life expectancies than their parents. And there are many reasons for that. And it is not metabolic dysfunction, that I will tell you. But there are many reasons for that the Surgeon General would identify and address. And they're going to be multiple things. This is a nuanced thing. It's complex. And so they can pick something like childhood obesity. Okay, let's go after it. Hey, I agree with the sugary drink thing. Go for it.
Yeah.
You want to tax it. You want to, you feel like it should, there's a whole conversation about SNAP benefits and whether or not they should go towards sugary drinks. Personally, I agree. If you want to stop benefits going to things that can harm a population, I'm all for it. It already doesn't pay for tobacco and alcohol, for example. But, the problem in this particular situation is that you got someone who's unable to do that dissection and figure out what the problems are, and absolutely unable, even if we handed her the problem on a platter, to fix it. And we're going to waste 4 years under somebody that might actually cause harm by spreading disinformation, because you can go by history, right? We already know, she's published that book with her brother. She has a lack of a medical license, which is just in and of itself insane as the, Surgeon General. And her whole focus is on lifestyle changes over traditional pharmaceuticals. And I do want to make this one little point, again, as a physician. So disease comes at people on a continuum. So what do I mean by that? I mean, today, let's say that you're obese because you ate badly as a child. Okay, you may get a little touch of diabetes, okay, a little metabolic dysfunction, but nothing's really wrong with you. You do some lifestyle modifications, you lose that weight, your diabetes maybe even goes away. Awesome, awesome. But let's pretend that it's 20 years in the future and you've been a diabetic all this time. And now you have situations where you're about to go on dialysis or you're about to go blind from the disease. Now, lifestyle changes are not going to help you. You're past that. You need the meds. And what these people who are in the lifestyle influencer world don't seem to understand is there's a place for them, but it's not at the end stage person in the hospital and you're feeding them wrong advice that can lead to death. And so that's why this particular situation with Casey Means is extremely distressing to the medical community.
Yeah, I can imagine, because we had to come up with these solutions when we had field hospitals in New York City. I ran a field hospital for COVID in New York City. And I know intimately when we have these outbreaks and public health becomes a danger, that we need adults in the room who can speak to that. And I don't get any impression in any way. And I spent a good part of our day prepping for this, watching videos of her. I mean, the stuff she's written, I've got here in my script. Most chronic symptoms of diseases afflicting modern bodies are connected by a shared root cause of cellular malfunction that often results in bad energy. All symptoms are the result the direct result of a dysfunction in our cells. Symptoms cannot arise out of thin air. And for most of the United States, metabolic dysfunction is a key cause of their cellular dysfunction. I'm just like, this is just a mumbo jumbo bullshit, okay? And I'm not a doctor, but I've been sick a couple of times, and it's like, it's not my bad fucking energy. If it was bad energy, I'd been dead years ago. I was in the army, for fuck's sake.
I completely,
You know, I mean, it's just mumbo jumbo.
We can use their own terminology. All the stuff that you just said, if you were to paraphrase it, you could say that is fake news. It is not metabolic dysfunction, and it is not it's when you are sick, do your cells do inappropriate things? Yes, that's any disease process. Like if you have cancer, for example, you have cells that are spinning out of control and reproducing more than they should. I mean, that's the fundamental of cancer.
That's some bad energy, I guess, right?
The bad energy from your Surgeon General, apparently, because, but again, like, there's this like ridiculous joke to it, but then, the fear is not you or me. The fear is, what about that person who's sitting, listening to her on the radio or reads a pamphlet or doesn't read a pamphlet because it gets stopped from being printed about the issues with XYZ, disease process. And then they get sicker and sicker and potentially die from something that could have been easily preventable because our Surgeon General is leading us into battle unequipped. I mean, and I honestly speak, I've watched a lot of the clips that you're talking about, and I feel bad, actually, because she speaks as someone who just graduated from medical school. That's literally exactly because, and that's not a disparaging remark amongst people who graduated. But why do we do residency? I'm a lifelong learner. I've been in practice 7 years now. Every day I learn something new because that's how medicine is. It changes, it evolves. You need to be able to really delve into that nuance. That's why you need your brain. And if you can just paint things with this big brush, you're going to hurt people. And that's why this particular nomination is especially concerning and should concern everyone out there, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Martian. Everybody should be concerned that this is an unacceptable person to lead such an important thing. And if tomorrow this country gets into a public health crisis where, again, water is contaminated, food is contaminated, E. coli outbreak, this is a person who is not equipped to deal with that situation, and people are going to get hurt.
And that's a scary thought. And they lead a public health service that I also feel like having someone like this, and what we're seeing a lot of in the government right now, especially, is the good people are voting with their feet. The qualified personnel. We are talking the pre-show about the VA. We're losing just tons of qualified veteran healthcare providers, mental health care providers, because they want no part of the constant insanity, the constant dragging around. I mean, does it worry you also that beyond just her and Compass at the top, we will lose a lot of the very good, talented people, with 6,000 or so people who are part of the U.S. Public Health Service? I mean, do they really want to be led by somebody who's telling you to get your bad energy out, or the F she's talking about?
I know we'd have to send everybody like healing stones in the United States. I don't know what, but
So I mean,
you know,
it could really cause damage if it's a
no, it
year,
could cause
4 year
much
process,
damage.
couldn't it? You know.
Because you know what what's interesting about what you just said and what is completely factual. So 6,000 people who are public health officials. So what does that actually mean? What is a public health official? A public health official is someone who is legitimately trained and likely has even a degree, like a master's in public health, that specifically teaches how disease is transferred, how you control it, how you stem an outbreak, how you fix people who are affected by it, and how you prevent the next one. That is what a public health official is. And these people have a particular, I mean, they don't take the Hippocratic oath in the way that I've taken it as a doctor, but they live in the same space. They are also healers that will prevent this outbreak. They are not going to subscribe to ideology that is completely contrary to what they've been trained to believe. It would be so hypocritical. So what are they going to do? They're exactly like you said, they're going to vote with their feet. They're going to go away from it. And in fact, they're going to kind of probably shut down and stop interfacing until this thing goes away. So what you're going to end up with is no people to help on the front lines and a leader that basically is not looking where she's going and a situation. Now, you know, if you really want to treat this as a figurehead, if Trump is like, I don't care, I just need a body and I want Bobby to leave me alone. Okay, fine. If that's
That's probably the most accurate deception. Yeah, yeah. I just don't want Bobby up my ass anymore.
it certainly feels that way,
Yeah.
frustrating. I mean, again, I'll bring it up again. This is not like just us outraging here. There are Republicans. You just showed it right now on Twitter. People really saying, "Whoa, what is this?" And for them to say it, there's a real issue. But if he really wants to just say, "I just want a body," then the body can be at the top, but the message coming out of that body needs to be something controlled and intelligent that needs to be scientifically based. And technically, is she a physician? She is a physician. She graduated from medical school. I don't know about this first in class thing. I don't think Stanford ranks, so that sounds like
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it's done that way. None of those schools do
Nope.
that. I know
Right.
none of the Ivy Leagues have that, so that's a made up thing.
I mean, yeah, definitely. But to not even have completed a residency is a major thing. It could be a residency in anything, but residency matures you. It shows you patient care, and it shows you that like empathy that you need to be a doctor. Like she should feel bad that people are going to get hurt because of what it's the exact opposite of what she was trained to do. So, I agree with what you said earlier that like people are going to walk away from this. And if we want to salvage this situation, the obvious thing to do is that she doesn't get confirmed. But if it goes down that route, I would urge my colleagues who are public health officials to band together and to at least try to steer the ship so that people who don't have access and who maybe are not as educationally like literate in terms of healthcare don't get hurt in this political, back and forth.
Yeah, yeah, that makes absolute sense. And it's a scary time for all those. It's a scary time for our healthcare processes. I actually want to talk some more about that, but in the end, before we get to that, will your group step up and say, will you guys be urging people like Senator Cassidy and others who are actually doctors to turn down this? I mean, I can't believe he let RFK go in. Do you think these people, the doctors up there, are going to actually get their head together and push back on this one?
I think they may, but that's the thing with the slippery slope, right? This sort of like terrible stuff doesn't happen overnight. If she had been put up as kind of the first thing, everyone might have attacked. But because we've been so kind of battered again and again and again, we were going to end up here where the president is saying on camera, I don't know who this person is, but you know what, my friends,
He loves her.
I mean, that's not, and again, like the part of it that seems and feels so deeply hypocritical is this concept of the administration where it sells merit, 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 which I am for, by the way. I am all for that. Merit should be exactly why you should choose people to get into. And I have no problem if she has a different position than I do on certain topics and she's scientifically vetted. There are many things. In fact, that's how science progresses. One person says one thing, somebody says something else, both go do scientific experiments, and we find the answer. That's how it works. But if you're going to put someone up there who cannot even engage because they're not educated, I mean, just pick someone off the street then, right? And if it's not an important role, then why are we wasting money on it? Then get Doge to just cut the Surgeon General if we don't need it, if it's not something important. So either it's important and it should take time and effort and be done right, or it's not important and get rid of it and don't being performative. These are the only two options, and that's what the administration should go after.
Okay, well, let's take a pause here. We got great sponsors this week, as always. We're very blessed to have sponsors. We'll take a pause for our sponsors, and we'll come right back because I really want to talk about what's going on in NIH as well. So we'll be right back.
Look, guys, I am who I am. I'm a middle-aged man who likes certain kinds of clothes, likes comfort, likes clothes he can count on, likes to go to certain outfits all the time. I'm not a big shopper. So when I found a place that just gets it, like Quint's, it's a game over for me. And I already ordered a few things for them this year, and suddenly I've got outfits that just work. And I like the fact there's just no stress. I can just open my drawer. I know what I'm going to get every time. And then my go-to shirts. The best part is that everything with Quint's is priced at 50 to 8% less than what you'd find in similar brands. You work directly with top artisans and cut out the middleman. Quince gives you luxury pieces without that luxury price and the crazy markups you might find. And once you find your style and your fit, it's so easy to keep going back and finding more. I love these comfortable peak cotton polo shirts. I love the linen shirts. It's about comfort for me, breathability, safe, responsible fabrics. And I just love the product. It's easy to work with. Those are the kind of pieces of clothing that I like. You guys always see me wearing black. I know who I am. I like the same kind of clothes, and Quince provides it for me. Now, the best news is we're working with them now here at On Democracy. You can elevate your closet with Quince. Just go to quince.com/Fred for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Fred to get free shipping and 365-day returns at quince.com/Fred. I hope to try them out. We're thrilled to have them as a sponsor for On Democracy. And one more time, that's quince.com/Fred for free shipping and 365-day returns. I'm a huge fan. I like my comfortable clothes. You'll love Quince. Thanks.
Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guides to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even your stress management. Not that I have stress in my life. Now, all you have to do is breathe in your Lumen first thing in the morning. You'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe in before you go on your workouts, before you go for a meal. You know exactly what's going on in your body in real time, and Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. So look, your metabolism is your body's engine. We all know this. You probably learned this in health class, right? It's how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. I've been tracking macros and nutrients and nutrition for years as I try to maintain my health as I age. Because your metabolism is the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, better moods even, if you will. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health right in your hand. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Fred. You'll get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Fred for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring our show this week. We really appreciate you. And man, it's a great device.
And we're back. Other issue this week. I mean, honestly, it's been a crazy week. I mean, you guys are going to laugh. Dr. Dua and I were together just on Sunday. That's 5 days ago. And there's things to talk about that have happened in 5 days. One of those, of course, we got the word that some 200 employees of the National Institutes of Health have been laid off. Among the cuts on Friday were around 50 employees at NIH's National Cancer Institute, NCI. They'd worked in the Institute's Office of Communications as public liaison, overseeing programs like the Cancer Information Service. And they provide answers to docs about cancers and patients, updates to databases summarizing cancer information for healthcare providers. They do a lot. I mean, it's not the PR department, right? They're not posting social media posts. When you talk about information and public liaison at NCI, you're talking about people who are actually giving people tips and information and doctor information about cancer. So it's by the way, what's interesting to me is I unpacked the story before us, was they're saying, well, we're laying you guys off so we can bring back 200 of the people we shouldn't have laid off before. Like, So yeah, so you laid the wrong people off, so now you're gonna lay off more wrong people to make up for the wrong one. I mean, how serious? I mean, the National Cancer Institute is a treasure of the United States of America. This is not a minor thing when you talk about finding these people, do they?
Not at all. I had mentioned it previously, and I'll just mention it again because I think it is so important. Cancer research and the development of incredible advances in the cancer community is really something that has come out of the United States, and we can take deep pride in that. And we did it really the right way. In 1971, Richard Nixon gave a bunch of money to the NIH to create focused groups and focus on this moonshot project, which was get rid of cancer. Right. And actually, even Biden ran a little bit with that,
Yeah.
ran with the topic that is. And
Yeah.
what had happened is once Nixon did that, a bunch of cancer research started to be done. That cancer research then rolled over, as it naturally does within about 20 years, into different types of medications, different types of techniques. And then that ultimately rolled into patients having extreme benefit. And today we are seeing some of the highest life expectancies across all cancers. Right?
Right.
That we were seeing from back then. And it's not been that long. It's really a blink of an eye, right? From the 70s to now. It's not been long at all. So human beings have not biologically changed. What has changed is the science. So we actually figured out something, and we are, of course, not done. Cancer is one of the number one killers. Top 3 killers in the United States are trauma, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. And they kind of like each vie for the top spot every year. So we have a lot of work still to get done, and we were so on the right track with the right people. And it was not only is it attracting, talent into the pool, it's also getting like fresh new ideas because new younger people are coming in, building upon what the giants before them have done. And all that just got shot in the head when we said, hey, this group that's working for us, let's nix it. And again, I want to say categorically, I have no problem with figuring out some of the fat in the NIH and cutting it down and identifying what priorities of health should exist in government, and then having the NIH specifically work on those things, like what I just said, those top 3 things. Yes, maybe 50% of the budget should be working on those top 3 killers. Sure,
Yeah.
whatever you decide, government.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we're not doing that. We're closing our eyes and we're taking a giant machete and we're just flying at it and hoping for the best. And that is going to have long-lasting repercussions that we're all going to feel potentially even personally if we potentially die from a cancer 20 years from now that could have been prevented.
And that's been the frustration, I've had with all these things. We talked briefly about the VA before we came on the show. There's no rhyme or reason to this most of the time. It's just random numbers. As I mentioned when I first introduced this part of the conversation with NIH, they just said, well, we're supposed to cut 400 people. Well, why 400? Why? And there's no, if you've been in a medical field like you have, or you've been in business like I have, or in the military, we start with the need first, and then back from there. If it ends up being 400, maybe it's 5,000. I don't know, but you
Exactly.
don't start with a random number and then just fire people randomly trying to get to that number, which is exactly what they're doing, and has nothing to do with the mission or what the United States needs at this point. It just seems to be random. I guarantee the decision to fire these 50 employees from the communication part, because it's probably just social, because that's what causes them is AI memes of them. This isn't the meme shop. This is this is a public liaison position. It literally says public liaison in it, which is very impressive. And this comes on top of the National Cancer Institute's Board of Scientific Advisors being disbanded as well,
Right.
which they weren't even paid. So the reasoning for cutting them, again, the 60 or so people, so our brightest scientists. I mean, what is gained or saved by these cuts in any way, as you as a practicing physician and an advocate?
Well, you know what? I think it is a little bit malicious, frankly. The things that are being done, including what we started out with, talking about, a very unqualified person being the Surgeon General, and these priorities that are not scientifically based, would never be able to be executed on any scale if they didn't get rid of all of these people that would block it, right? So the first thing you have to do is, if you are trying to take over, which is what they're trying to do, is basically say, let's eliminate anybody who is going to say that we are wrong. And, they're selling it as, well, like kind of a whataboutism. Like, well, what about the time that there was COVID and there were people that came out and said that, XYZ about the COVID vaccine and you guys stifled it? And you know what? they are right about that. We do know that indeed there were some scientists, including Jay Bhattacharya, for example, who is not a physician and now the head of the NIH, that stands on this platform and says, "I was silenced. I was silenced." But the intentions are what's important. It wasn't that they were silenced because people were trying to, they knew the truth and they were trying to silence what they were saying. It was because we had a crisis. Nobody knew what was going on, and we were trying to save as many lives as possible. And the science at that time supported the masks, the vaccines, and the way that we put people in isolated units to try to prevent them from killing each other. One of the things that comes up is this idea of, well, they separated families where grandma was passing away and you couldn't come, and that was horrible, 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 absolutely horrible. But do you think grandma wanted the last thing that she did to be infecting your 3-year-old daughter with COVID? Is that what you think? That is not what
This affected my own family. This affected my own family. We had a family member. It's not my direct family, my former wife's family. A young man came home from the Marine Corps on leave, and his grandmother caught, or auntie, his auntie caught COVID from him. She had, health issues, on top of that, and died from COVID. He gave they wanted to see each other because he was coming home from basic training. How do you live with yourself knowing you brought home a disease that ended up killing, that is preventable, that we knew early on how to prevent it from getting to other people?
I mean, exactly. I completely agree with you. And the thing about it is that we evolved. Like, I was there. I was there during all of that. And I saw, even with us, we evolved. We went from, the N95s to, okay, we can wear this type of mask, to, okay, we can change. And we were doing that in real time. We were, the scientific community had a whole website where we were posting our research in real time. So normally when you write a paper, it has to go to something called peer review, where a couple of other authorities read it, and then they say, this is what's right or wrong with it, make these changes, and then you submit it and you get accepted if it's good enough. But because we were all on bought time and no one knew what was going on, we were publishing across the world. The world came together, putting our data up front, and it was changing day to day. But it was all with the intention of trying to help people. You can sit there and Monday morning quarterback the shit out of it, which is what's happening now. But at the end of the day, there was nothing malicious. Now here, what we have is a situation that's vastly different. So it's not fair to do the whataboutism. Now what we have is a very strategic, ironically, I mean, I couldn't really use that word for this administration, but I will, I guess, here, strategic elimination of what they are calling, quote unquote, the elites. But it's not actually the elites. It's just people who are scientists and doctors and who are questioning, some of the politics and the way in which these politics are coming into places like the NIH, where they should have no place. And I say that both sides. That should not be from left to right, and it should not be from right to left. There is no place for politics, 0, 0, 0 in science. It's all you care about there is the truth. And alternative facts are not, that's a social thing. There are no alternative facts in science. However, science does evolve. And I think the more that this administration eliminates our people who are thinkers and replaces them with loyalists, the more our public is going to suffer. And so I would say a solution to this is that our public says to the administration, even if you voted for Trump, right? In fact, you especially, if you voted for Trump,
Right.
that stand up and say, hey, President Trump, please take a moment. We don't need you to do this stuff by September. Just do it right, do it once. And please get the right people in there, get the best in there, get the merit-based ones in there, pay them what they need to be paid, and get us all on the right track. Because it's so ironic that the people who are going to suffer the most are actually the MAGA crowd, because they're the ones from the socioeconomic standpoint, from the political standpoint, that are going to buy into this disinformation, and they're going to get hurt by it. And that's something that no one wants to see, because ultimately there are brothers and sisters and Americans that we care about and we want the best.
It's still fellow America. I always say that. It's always fellow America.
Absolutely.
I guess the last thing before I let you go, I don't want to let you go, because you did, during the run up to the election, you ran a piece in the Boston Globe saying, hey, I think we should have cognitive tests for every presidential candidate. As we watch the video of Trump saying, hoop de doop de doo, y'all don't know her at all, but Bobby loves her. I can't help but think of your op-ed saying, cognitive test would be good. I mean, it is, obviously Mr. Biden had challenged. I think there's a book's coming out about that. I'm not gonna dwell on that because he's no longer in office. But we do see Trump every day, and it's clear that he's not the Donald Trump he was in 2016. He's certainly not the Donald Trump he was in 2010 or wherever, So tell me a little bit more about that. I mean, it's a bold proposition, but as we age, it's not necessarily a bad one, is it?
No, and you know what's interesting? So we did a survey through Healthcare for Action, a very well done survey, because we really wanted to know the truth. And
Yeah.
80% Republicans and Democrats, in fact, it was actually more Republicans, wanted cognitive testing for all people who were going to be in office, but especially the president. Of course you do, right?
Wow.
I mean, you want
Yeah.
cognitive, listen, everyone's got grandma, okay? Everyone knows. We don't need to dwell on it, like you said. And I think it was a travesty what happened with President Biden. He absolutely, like I am in vascular surgery, as you know, and so I deal with a lot of elderly people. And Dianne Feinstein, what happened there? What happened with Biden? I mean, I'll put that in the category of elder abuse, frankly speaking. That is not a way that a person at that age should be treated. And I'll say the same thing now with President Trump. Absolutely, he is not the same president that we're seeing even from a few years ago. And whoever he is, you cannot take somebody in that type of position and force them into these types of situations for your own political gain. That is evil. And that is what's happening right now. And the only way that we can stop this, honestly, is either we say, first of all, term limits for all, right? So that would include, obviously, our president, well, hopefully stays at 2 terms, but we don't know what's coming down the pike. But of course, even for Congress and the Senate and, even the Supreme Court, we need to do something where we have our best and brightest minds. Now, that's not an age thing. And I want to make that very clear. It's not that because there are absolutely older people, 80s, even 90s, frankly, that are sharp. But
Yeah.
they have to be able to walk around, talk to the public, shake a hand without breaking a bone. These are important things. And I'm not saying this in jest. These are real problems. And so I think that cognitive testing will really help us because it'll put everyone on the same path objectively. And this is not cognitive testing like, hey, can you draw a clock? That's basically for like Alzheimer's and dementia. We're not saying that President Trump does not have Alzheimer's or dementia, per at least what I'm seeing on TV, but absolutely has cognitive decline. And executive functioning, I mean, the guy is the head of the executive branch. Executive functioning is fundamental. And executive functioning is being able to think quickly and make snap decisions by including all the data in your mind and being able to make a smart move. And that does not seem to be something that he currently can do. And because it's tiring him out, I think that's why he's pushing it off on the Bobbies or the aides. And we're getting a totally different system than even Trump voters actually thought they were voting for. So I would say that we need to get this passed ASAP. I think you would get bipartisan support for it. And we need to put down very clear cognitive tests that our neurologists and psychologists can administer who are impartial. And we can say, before you can run for any seat, you need to get X amount of signatures and you need to show us your cognitive test.
Mm.
Otherwise, no means no.
Yeah. And it's just, we all age differently. My in-laws are terrific, like sharp as tack in their 80s, still playing golf, right? It's not an issue, but not every age is that way. I'm 59. I'm broken, 5 surgeries in the last 10 years, brain's clearly fried. Everybody knows that. But we've been talking for a while. I really appreciate that. I think the most important thing is tell folks they can find you, find your organization, learn more about your work, support it, hopefully, and hunt you down. 'Cause I know where to hunt you down because I keep putting you on my show.
I love it. I'll be right here, I guess.
Perfect. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you.
So right there at healthcarefораction.com is the best place to hunt you down, right?
Yes, exactly right.
Well, Doc, thanks as always for everything. I appreciate you coming on. It's been it's a crazy time. I hope I don't have another healthcare scare we have to talk about next week, but God knows we might. And I'll call you definitely. So thanks for joining us here at the Midas Touch.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Another great conversation with Dr. Dua. I just enjoyed my conversation with Dr. Dua. She is terrific. You can learn more about, as I mentioned, at United for Healthcare for Action. Sorry, Healthcare for Action. Where you go, learn more. They're doing great stuff. They're endorsing candidates. They were running for us, healthcare providers. They were running for office. It's a great organization, and she's brilliant. And these are real issues, you guys. We're facing a very difficult time. The idea that these kind of incompetent, unqualified, completely way above their heads in these jobs has got to stop. You may have seen this week of Kash Patel testifying before Senate. not knowing if and when his budget's going to be done. He's the head of the FBI, and he couldn't answer if and when he'll get the budget done anytime soon with some excuse. Well, I'm waiting for my interagency. That's not your job, dude. Your job is the job to run the job, not go to WWE, not go to freaking concerts, or your job is to run the damn FBI. And in this case, the Surgeon General's job is to manage our public health, manage the public health service of 6,000 plus professionals, to watch for public health issues. And instead, we're going to get somebody talk about metabolic health and glucose monitors, because we just need to eat better, and that's going to solve all the problems. And guess what? That's not it. Okay, that's part of it. There is a lot of truth to eating better, but the insanity we're seeing is just unnecessary. Well, a lot to talk about. What else I'm working on, as you guys may know, I'm very proud to be one of the organizers of Unite for Veterans, Unite for America. You've heard me talk about it before. We will be gathering now. We're less than a month away now. We'll be gathering in Washington, D.C. on the 81st anniversary of D-Day, June 6th, Friday, June 6th, right there on the National Mall. We're still nailing down the details of the Park Service. We're very excited. We got thousands of veterans signed up to come visit us. You don't have to be a veteran. It's Unite for America. If you're a family member or service member, you're just a supporter of our Constitution. We want to raise the issues. We want our government to recognize that they can't just strip veterans health care and benefits from them, even if it's through malicious intent, the way they're doing it by cutting 83,000 employees. We know you're cutting our health care. The same thing goes for firing thousands and thousands of veterans from their federal jobs for no reason other than to make a number work. And finally, to protect and defend the Constitution. We swore an oath to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. We're going to be there to defend that as well. So if you can join us, we're doing it in Washington, D.C. Our intent is to have a big crowd in D.C. I do hear that people are organizing trips with buses. I do hear that people are organizing satellite protests right here in their hometowns. Our core group of organizers for this one is focusing on DC. We're very excited. The Dropkick Murphys are going to join us. If you haven't heard that already, it'll be a lot of fun. We got some more celebrity surprises coming our way, and some more information. Unite for Veterans, and you can learn more at uniteforveterans.org. That's unite 4 veterans.org right here on the screen. I hope you'll join us in DC. It'd be wonderful to see you there. I'll be there, of course, and I can't wait. Finally, I'd love to see you this Sunday on what we call Too Late to Cancel. Too Late to Cancel is our Sunday show at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. It's a lot of fun. We have comedians, we have actors, we have influencers, we have famous people come on. We have a lot of fun live every Sunday on the On Democracy channel. That's Too Late to Cancel with me. In the meantime, I hope you like our new time slot here on the My Session Network. It's so good chatting to you guys here in the chat. I love talking to you guys. I'm thrilled to be here with you. See us again, I guess, next week at 8 o'clock Eastern, right here Friday nights on the My Session Network. I am Fred Wellman. It's such a pleasure to be with you, and we will see you again next week.